Hey everyone, welcome back to DarkWeb Tales. Tonight's story comes from a follower who asked to stay anonymous. He said he just needed someone to finally believe him, because no one else ever did. He was a long-haul truck driver, used to long nights, empty highways, and the kind of silence that hums in your ears. But one night last fall, something happened on an old stretch of interstate in the Midwest. Something he can't explain. And something he's pretty sure followed him long after he left that road behind. So sit back, turn down the lights, and listen closely. Because tonight's story is called The Highway Doesn't End. It started like any other haul. I was driving west out of Illinois, heading toward Nebraska with a trailer full of industrial cable. The air was cold, that kind of dry autumn chill that makes your breath fog up even inside the cab. The radio was dead, just static, and the sky was bruised purple with the last bit of daylight sinking behind the trees. I've driven trucks for almost 12 years. I've seen things, accidents, storms, sleep deprivation doing strange tricks on your brain. But this was different. It didn't start as something supernatural. It started with a wrong turn. My GPS had been acting up since morning, cutting in and out, but I didn't think much of it. Somewhere after passing a small town called Ridgefield, the signal dropped completely. The screen froze, then blinked off. I figured I'd just follow the old highway signs, Route 70, until it reconnected. Only Route 70 shouldn't have been that empty. It was late evening by then, and I hadn't seen another vehicle for maybe 20 minutes. The road stretched endlessly, no billboards, no gas stations, just forest and fields. Even the sky looked wrong. The colors too dull, the light fading too fast. After a while, I noticed something else. The mile markers. They were all blank. Just gray metal posts. No numbers, no reflective paint. I told myself I was overtired. Maybe I'd missed a turn, but there wasn't anywhere to turn. Then I saw the first sign of life. A small diner sign, Marge's Diner, open 24/7, glowing weakly in the distance. Relief washed over me. I hadn't eaten since morning. I slowed the rig, turned into the gravel lot, and killed the engine. The place was deserted. No other trucks, no cars, no sound. Just a single flickering light above the door. Inside, the neon open sign buzzed faintly, like it was running on borrowed power. I stepped out. The air smelled like wet leaves and diesel. My boots crunched on gravel as I walked up to the door. But before I reached it, I heard something behind me. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. Coming from the direction of the road. I turned, scanning the tree line with my flashlight, but there was nothing. Just the whisper of wind through the tall grass. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, my pulse starting to quicken, then told myself I was being stupid, probably an animal. I pushed the diner door open. The bell above it gave a weak, metallic jingle. Inside, it was dim and cold. The smell hit me first. Like stale coffee and dust. There were only a few tables, all empty. A jukebox sat in the corner, lights dead. I waited at the counter, but no one came out from the kitchen. "Hello?" I called out. My voice echoed slightly. That's when I noticed the coffee pot. It was full, fresh, still steaming. I looked around. The clock on the wall had stopped at 2:47, but my phone said 7:12 p.m. I poured myself some coffee anyway because hell, I was cold and tired. Sat down at the counter and sipped in silence. After a minute, I started hearing that sound again, the dragging footsteps. Only now they were inside. They came from behind the counter. Slow, uneven. I froze. "Hey," I called out, trying to sound casual. "Didn't mean to help myself. Just needed a cup. Sorry about that." No answer. The footsteps stopped. Then, a faint reflection in the metal napkin holder. someone standing behind me. I turned so fast the stool nearly toppled over, but there was no one there. Just an open kitchen door, swinging slightly. The coffee pot was gone. That's when I realized there were no footprints in the dust on the floor except mine. My heartbeat was in my throat. I backed toward the door, half expecting someone to grab me. But when I stepped outside, everything had changed. The parking lot wasn't gravel anymore. It was cracked asphalt, weeds pushing through. The diner sign had gone dark. The letters, Marge's Diner, were faded, half missing. The open sign was shattered. I stumbled toward my truck. The windows were fogged from the inside. I could see handprints, not mine, smeared across the glass. And then the CB radio came alive, hissing with static before a voice whispered through, "You shouldn't have stopped." The channel went dead. I didn't wait. I jumped into the cab, started the engine, and pulled out of there like hell itself was on my tail. For miles, I didn't look back. But when I finally did, the diner was gone, just empty. The highway turned into a ribbon of dull graphite under my headlights, the kind of long, featureless stretch that makes you forget you're moving at all. I kept the rig at a cautious 60, both hands on the wheel, eyes scanning for deer or debris. The trees on either side leaned close like they were eavesdropping. Every few miles, I tried the radio again. Weather band, local stations, anything. But all I caught was a hush of static, like the world had been turned down. I told myself I was tired, that the diner had been some abandoned shell with a broken generator sputtering to life when I walked in. Memory plays tricks. I told myself a lot of things, but I watched the fog bloom on the inside of the cab glass and the oily shapes of handprints fade as if they'd never been there, and I knew I was lying to myself. The night settled. A fox darted across the shoulder and vanished in a blur of tail and fear. The white lines flashed beneath me in a hypnotic pattern, and I chewed on a toothpick to keep my jaw awake. It was cold enough that I could see my breath fog in the beam of the dashboard light when I exhaled, a thin ghost of myself. Then, far ahead, something pale at the edge of the road. I leaned forward, squinting. It was the movement first. A flicker like fabric in wind. The shoulder dipped into a shallow ditch and rose to a knotted fence. In the trough of that ditch, caught in a wedge of bramble and dead grass, was a woman. I braked. The truck rumbled, slowed, hissed. My headlights washed over her. Bare legs, a white dress muddied at the hem. Hair stuck to her face in dark strands. The kind of sight that makes you forget everything except the need to help. I pulled onto the shoulder and set the brakes. The air brakes let out a long sigh that sounded almost disappointed in me. As I climbed down, the cold reached in and unzipped my spine. She was half sitting, half curled, one arm clutched to her chest. Her head tilted toward the light like a plant seeking the sun. "Ma'am," I called, hands up to show I meant no harm. "You okay? Can you hear me?" She didn't answer, just blinked once, slow. Her eyes looked wrong in the same way the sky had looked wrong, like the color had been lifted out and replaced with a faded copy. I waded into the ditch. The grass crackled under my boots. Up close, I saw her dress wasn't white. Not really. It had been a delicate floral pattern once, now bleached and stained. She was shivering violently, though the air was still. A red mark ringed her wrist like a bracelet cut too deep. "Can you stand?" I asked. "I can get you up into the cab. It's warm there. I have water." She made a sound, a thin thread of a word. "Please." It wasn't the plea that stopped me. It was the way her lips moved. They formed shapes that didn't match the sound, like a video with the audio out of sync. I set my jaw and put the thought away. Fear and fatigue do that, I told myself. They put echoes on things. I offered my hand. It was colder than the night when she took it. She was light, too light. I helped her up the embankment, steering carefully so she wouldn't slip. When we reached the shoulder, I felt the tremor run through her, a ripple like the shudder of a dog shaking off water, but it passed through her bones without reaching her skin. I opened the passenger door and she paused, looking up into the cab as if it were a church she hadn't decided to enter. The interior light made her squint. I saw then that there was a tear in her dress just below the collarbone, a neat, straight slash as clean as a paper cut. "It's warm," I said. "There's a blanket." She climbed in, slow, as if learning steps by watching herself take them. I handed her the wool throw I keep for winter runs, and she gathered it around her shoulders. The smell of damp earth came with her, heavy and sharp. "What's your name?" I asked, settling behind the wheel. The highway ahead was empty as a chalk line. She looked at me, and for a second, it felt like she wasn't seeing me so much as measuring me against something. "I need to get to the motel," she said. The words were thin, precise. "The one off exit 9? "Exit 9. I frowned. "What interstate is this?" 70. Her gaze slid to the windshield, to the glass hazed by the breath of two people who weren't warm enough to fog it so fast. "Exit 9, she said again. "Please." "All right," I said. "We'll look for it. Do you need a hospital?" "No." The CB crackled. A soft hiss, a glitch, then quiet. I looked at the radio, controlling my face, then put the truck in gear. The wheels thumped over a seam in the asphalt, and we were moving again, the rig's mass comforting in its predictability. I checked the rear view. The ditch was just a dark gouge in the night now, already losing her outline. She sat very still, hands folded like a child told to behave. The blanket swallowed her. As the miles unspooled, I asked little questions. Where had she been headed? Was there someone I could call? Did she remember what happened? Her answers were frugal, as if each word cost something. To the motel. No one. I was on the road. Once, when I asked if she was hurt, she said, "Not where you can see." And I decided that kindness sometimes meant not asking more. The temperature dropped further. Frost began to bloom on the corners of the windshield, a creeping lace that retreated when the defroster puffed to life. I turned the heat up. My breath stopped fogging. Hers didn't. "Exit 9, I said, mostly to test the shape of it in my mouth. "I don't remember an exit 9. "It's there," she said, like a promise or a threat. The highway rolled on. No mile markers. No billboards. I started watching the road signs like a gambler watching a wheel. When a green reflective rectangle finally appeared, my chest loosened, until I passed it and saw it was blank. Just a green mouth with no words. The posts that held it were new, not rusted, not old, as if something had erased the letters cleanly, like chalk from a board. The woman didn't look at it. She didn't look at much of anything, except once when a rabbit darted in the shoulder light and her head snapped toward it so sharply, I heard the tendons in her neck crackle. "Were you walking long?" I asked to fill the silence. "I wasn't walking," she said. I glanced at her. The blanket had slipped, revealing her shoulder. Her skin was mottled with a pattern like tiny crescent moons, as if someone had pressed fingers there and never quite let go. "Then how did you end up in the ditch?" She seemed to consider this, as if trying on the shape of the answer to see if it fit her mouth. "I was left," she said at last. "By who?" was the next question, but I let it die. The CB hissed again, and a voice slid through, faint and wet. "Exit." "Say again," I snapped, leaning toward the mic. "Breaker 1, 9, you got a copy?" Static, then, "Don't," and a sound like a sigh turned inside out. I let go of the mic. The woman's eyes were on the radio now, wide and bright, the first emotion I'd seen cross her face. Not fear. Anticipation. Relief. "What's at exit 9? I asked, keeping my voice even. "Your car? Your people?" "My room," she said. "I need to get back before the light changes." "What light?" I asked. She opened her mouth and closed it like a secret. I kept driving. After a while, my headlights caught another sign. This one wasn't green. It was white, with black letters that looked hand-painted. "Exit 9, 1 mile." I blinked hard. I hadn't seen any earlier exits. No ramps, no on-ramps. The shoulder narrowed into a strip. Trees pushed closer. My chest felt tight, like the cab was slowly filling with cold water. The sign receded behind us. "See," she said softly. I swallowed. "Yeah." A minute later, there it was. A narrow ramp peeling off to the right, unlit. A throat cut into the trees. No overhead lights, no reflective markers. Just a darker black leading away from the black we were on. I slowed. The ramp was tight for a rig like mine, practically daring me to try it. "You sure?" I said. "Yes," she said. And then she put her hand on my forearm. The touch was light and careful, but every hair on my arm rose like I was holding it to static. I took the exit. The ramp curved downward, steeper than any interstate ramp I'd driven. The trees closed in, branches arching like ribs. The road surface changed under my tires, less maintained, pitted, the joints uneven. We emerged into a shallow valley where a handful of buildings squatted in the dark, like old animals too stubborn to die. A gas station, a liquor store, a motel with a U-shaped lot, and a vacancy sign that flickered between vacancy and ANSI, as if letters could get tired. I pulled into the motel lot. The asphalt was cracked, white weeds thrusting up. Half the rooms were dark. The other half glowed the weak yellow of a sick room. The office door stood open a few inches. Somewhere, a TV murmured without an audience. "This is it," she said. Her voice had changed. Not warmer, closer to something I'd call present. "You sure?" I asked, but I could see it on her face, recognition swimming to the surface after being held underwater too long. I parked beside the office. The engine idled, the truck a living thing, catching its breath. I turned to her. "Do you need me to walk you in? Do you have a key?" She smiled then. It was small and bright and wrong. Not because it was cold, but because I realized it was the first expression she'd made that looked practiced, as if she were remembering how to do it. "I never had a key," she said. The CB whispered, close enough to be in my ear, "Don't go in." Then it clicked dead, so hard the speakers popped. I looked at the office door again, that thin gap of black. I had the sudden childish urge to lock my own door, as if that would matter. "Which room?" I asked. 11, she said, already reaching for the handle. The wind rose, carrying the smell of burnt rubber and something sweeter under it, like fruit left in the sun too long. The vacancy sign guttered and steadied. I turned off the engine. "Hang on," I said, "let me..." But she was already out of the cab, barefoot, blanket trailing like a shadow. She drifted across the lot, not looking left or right, and for just a second, I thought her feet didn't quite touch the ground. I followed, because of course I did. Because when you pull someone out of a ditch on a highway where signs forget their own names, you don't let them walk into a motel. Alone. Room 11 was halfway down, between a door with no number and a door with 2 numbers, both of them scratched to illegibility. The curtains were drawn. The door's paint had peeled in long curls like something trying to get free. As we approached, I heard noises from inside, nothing identifiable, not voices, not a TV, just the murmur of a place that had not been empty in a long time, and had opinions about it. The woman stopped in front of the door, put her palm flat against it. She closed her eyes. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. The wind, the shudder of the ice machine on the walkway, even my own breath. Then, she turned her head and looked at me. Really looked. The way you look at an exit you're not sure you should take, knowing either way is a loss. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For stopping," she said. "No one ever does." She reached for the doorknob. "Wait." I started, but the word tripped, because in the reflection of the window I saw us both. Me, big and tired and scarecrow tall, and her, small and slight, except she wasn't there in the glass at all. Just the strip of lot light, the empty walkway, the long shadow I threw alone. The knob turned. Something on the other side turned it back. The door didn't open. We stood there, the three of us. Me, the woman, and whatever pressed its quiet weight to that door from the inside. "Maybe we should go to the office," I said. "Get the manager." "There isn't one," she said simply. "Not anymore." And from inside room 11 came a sound like a breath pulled backward. "Please," she whispered. It took me a second to realize she wasn't talking to me. The air outside the truck felt different, heavier, thicker, like it was holding something back. The woman stood before room 11, hand still on the knob, whispering that single word again, "Please." But now it sounded like a memory repeating itself, like she wasn't talking to whoever was inside, but to time itself. Then the sound came again, that same reverse inhale, dragging like wind through a broken pipe, only closer. She took a step back. I could see her pulse flicker just under her jaw, rapid and wrong, like a second heartbeat. "Let's go," I said. "We'll find somewhere else, somewhere," but she was already moving. She pressed the knob down slowly, as if afraid it would scream. The door gave, swinging inward with a drawn-out creak that sounded like something sighing in relief. The room was dark except for the pulse of a neon light from the parking lot, flashing through the blinds in fractured bursts. Blue, black, blue, black, like a heartbeat made of light. The air smelled like mildew, gasoline, and something else, sweet and metallic. She walked in. I should have stopped her. Every muscle in my body told me not to move, but some stupid instinct, maybe guilt, maybe morbid curiosity, dragged me after her. The room was small, maybe 12 by 12. A single bed with a yellowed comforter, a cracked mirror above the dresser, and on the floor, a wet, dark patch, spreading slowly beneath the carpet, glistening like oil. "What the hell?" I murmured. The woman stopped in the middle of the room. Her shoulders trembled once, like a chill ran through her bones. Then she whispered, "He said he'd wait for me." My mouth went dry. "Who?" She didn't answer. Instead, she crouched and touched the wet patch with her fingertips. When she lifted her hand, it wasn't oil. It was blood. Old blood. Dark. Almost black. She stared at it, eyes hollow. I told him not to drive that night. A noise creaked above us. Slow footsteps. But the motel was only one floor. I stepped backward toward the door. That's when I saw it. In the mirror above the dresser. Not her, not me, but someone else. A man, sitting on the edge of the bed. He wasn't moving. His head hung low, chin to chest. His hands rested on his knees, black with something thick and tar-like. "Ma'am?" I said softly. "We should go." She didn't move. She just kept staring at her reflection. At him. Then the man's head began to rise. I swear to God, it wasn't the mirror that moved. It was the room. The light flickered, and suddenly the man wasn't in the glass anymore. He was in the chair by the wall, slumped in the shadows. The air shifted, bringing with it the same sweet metallic smell that coated the back of my throat. The woman whispered, "You found me." That's when the chair scraped. He stood up. I caught just a glimpse. His eyes, glassy and wide, and his mouth smeared dark like he'd been drinking from something he shouldn't. His movements were jerky, uncoordinated, like someone being pulled up by invisible strings. My mind screamed run. My body didn't listen. The woman reached for him. Or maybe she wasn't reaching at all. Maybe her hand was shaking so badly, it just looked that way. "It's time," she said. He tilted his head toward her, that wrong, broken angle that no living neck should make. His mouth opened, but the sound that came out wasn't speech. It was the same dragging breath, the same sound from behind the door, only now it had shape. It sounded like it was saying her name. I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted. I don't remember running out the door, said he, that only the cold air hitting me like water. The truck loomed in the dark, a fortress of steel and noise. I yanked the door open and slammed it behind me, locking it out of reflex. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely find the ignition. When I looked back toward room 11, the door was closed again. The light in the window was gone, and she, the woman, was standing in the parking lot, barefoot, head tilted slightly, her hair hung forward like a curtain. I froze, foot on the brake. Then she smiled, that same wrong practice smile, and she raised her hand slowly, not to wave, but to point at me. The CB crackled again, a burst of static, followed by a man's voice, low, trembling, terrified. "If you see her, don't let her in. Don't let her in the cab." Then it went dead. I didn't wait for more. I threw the truck into gear and tore out of the lot, gravel exploding under the tires. The motel shrank in my mirrors, swallowed by the dark. But halfway up the ramp, my headlights caught something in the rear view. A shape, standing by the road. The woman, her dress fluttering in the wind, eyes gleaming pale white, and for a heartbeat, I could swear she was smiling. And she wasn't alone. There was someone standing just behind her, tall, bent, watching me leave. I didn't stop driving until the motel was a smear in my mirrors, swallowed by fog and distance. The road climbed, dipped, then straightened out into an empty two-lane strip that felt like it had no end. The clock on the dash said 1:13 a.m. But the sky looked more like twilight than midnight. That dull, endless gray that doesn't belong to any hour. My hands were still shaking, every nerve buzzed. I told myself I'd pull over once I hit a real rest stop with lights and people. Somewhere normal. Somewhere alive. The CB was quiet now. No static, no whispers. Just silence, but every so often I thought I could hear something faint beneath the hum of the tires. A low, rhythmic thump. Almost like breathing. At first, I thought it was the sound of the road seams passing under the wheels. Then I noticed it didn't match the rhythm, and it was coming from behind me. I checked the mirrors. The cab was dark except for the faint red glow of the dashboard. The sleeper compartment behind me was just a shadowed box. Nothing there, nothing I could see. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I cracked the window, hoping the rush of cold air would clear my head. But instead, something new hit me. That smell again. That sickly sweet, metallic tang of blood and earth and something old. It didn't belong in a truck. It belonged in the ground. Get it together, I muttered to myself. Fatigue, fear, bad coffee, whatever that diner had been. It was all catching up to me. Then I heard it. A whisper. Faint. Female. Coming from the sleeper behind me. He never came back. My chest seized. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles went white. The voice was quiet, almost apologetic. He said he'd wait. I forced myself to glance into the rearview mirror. The sleeper curtain was half drawn, just a strip of darkness visible through the gap. And in that strip, something moved. A hand, pale, thin, with dirt under the fingernails. The wheel jerked as I lost control for half a second. The truck swayed across the center line. Horns blared somewhere in the fog, distant and distorted, though I hadn't seen another car for miles. When I steadied the rig, I didn't look back again. I couldn't. "Who's there?" I called out, trying to sound angry instead of terrified. The silence that followed was so heavy, I could hear my own heartbeat. Then the voice came again, closer now. "You left him." I slammed the brakes. The truck shuddered to a stop in the middle of the empty highway. The sudden stillness was deafening. The world outside was blank. No lights, no signs, no sound. Just fog rolling slow over the asphalt. I turned in my seat. The sleeper curtain hung still. For a long minute, I just stared at it, waiting for it to move again. Then I grabbed the flashlight from the glove compartment, switched it on, and yanked the curtain open. Empty. The bedding was rumpled, the blanket half on the floor. But no one was there. No woman, no footprints, nothing. I exhaled hard, trying to shake it off, when the beam of my flashlight caught something on the floor. A small, rust-colored stain, and next to it, a hotel key. Metal, old-fashioned, with a cracked plastic tag. Room 11? My throat closed. I picked it up slowly, the cold metal biting my fingers. How the hell did it get here? I dropped it like it burned. Something thudded against the back of the cab. Once, twice, then dragging, like someone's palm sliding slowly across the metal wall. I turned the key in the ignition, slammed the truck into gear, and floored it. The engine roared to life, tires screaming against the road. The sound followed for a few seconds, then the dragging scrape, then faded into the night. I drove blind, guided only by instinct and adrenaline, until a green sign appeared through the fog. Rest area. 1 mile. I don't think I've ever been so grateful to see a government-issued rectangle in my life. The rest area was small. 1 vending machine, 2 flickering lamps, and an old brick restroom building. No other vehicles. No sound. I parked near the light and shut off the engine. The silence pressed in again. It wasn't peace. It was expectation. Like the air was waiting for something to happen. I opened the door, stepped down, and just breathed for a while. The cold bit my lungs, but it felt real. Grounded. When I walked around to the back of the trailer, the fog had thickened, curling in strange patterns around my boots. I half expected to see scratches or prints on the cab wall, but there was nothing. Just a smear of something dark where the handprint should have been. I wiped it with my glove, came off like soot. Back in the cab, I left the door open for a moment, listening. Only wind, only silence. Then, just as I reached for the handle to shut it, a whisper, so close it brushed my ear. "He's still waiting." I froze. My skin went ice cold. There was no one outside. No one could be outside. I slammed the door and locked it. The windows fogged instantly, as if someone had breathed on all of them at once. And through the haze on the passenger window, faint letters began to appear, drawn slowly by an invisible hand. Exit 9. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, the woman on the highway, standing barefoot in the ditch, whispering that single word over and over, like a prayer she'd forgotten how to finish. By 3 a.m., I gave up. I turned the key, started the rig, and rolled back onto the highway. I didn't even check the map. I just drove. Away from exit 9. Away from everything that could still remember my name. The fog had thickened again, swallowing the road in white silence. The high beams did nothing but bounce the mist back into my eyes. It felt like driving through milk. Thick, blinding, endless. I kept one hand on the wheel and the other on the CB mic, flicking through the channels for any sound of life. Truckers, police, late-night chatter. Anything. All I got was static. Not the normal kind. This was layered, deep, like multiple frequencies bleeding into each other. Somewhere beneath it, I could hear something faint. A whisper. Then two. Then dozens. Overlapping like a broken choir. I turned the volume down, but the voices grew louder. Come back. Wrong road. You left us. My skin prickled. The sound didn't come from the CB anymore. It was everywhere. In the engine's hum. In the vibration of the glass. And then, through the static, a voice cut through. Clear. Sharp. Familiar. Breaker 19. You out here again, driver? I froze. That voice. I knew it. It was mine. Not exactly. The tone was off. Slower. Hollow. Like someone had learned my voice by memory and was repeating it through bad speakers. You shouldn't have stopped. That last line. The same words I'd heard outside the diner. I ripped the power cord out of the CB. The static stopped instantly, leaving only the deep hum of the tires and my own breathing. I kept driving. Faster. The odometer climbed, but the mile markers didn't change. Every few minutes, I saw shapes in the fog, hints of things just outside the range of my headlights. Sometimes they looked like people standing by the shoulder. Sometimes like road signs that vanished as soon as I got close. Once, I saw what looked like the diner again. Same flickering sign, same angle. And for one impossible second, I swear the clock in the window read 2:47. The same frozen time. The road curved, and it was gone. The cab felt smaller by the mile. The air thicker. Every breath I took came back slower, like the truck was breathing with me. Then the dashboard lights flickered, the fuel gauge dipped to 0, then back to half, then to 0 again. The headlights dimmed. Something moved in the sleeper behind me, a soft shuffle. The sound of fabric dragging. I didn't turn. Couldn't. The smell filled the cab again. Wet, dirt, rust, and something faintly sweet, like flowers decaying in water. The curtain rustled. You drove past it, a voice whispered. Her voice. My throat locked. I didn't dare look back, but the mirror caught the faintest glimpse. A silhouette sitting in the shadows. He waited, she said. He waited until the light changed. Her tone wasn't angry. It was almost tender. I gripped the wheel, knuckles white, breath short. You're not real, I said out loud, more to convince myself than her. Then why did you stop? My vision blurred. The road ahead rippled like heat haze. When I blinked, the fog cleared, and I wasn't on the same highway anymore. The asphalt was cracked. The lines faded to nothing. Dead trees lined both sides like skeletal witnesses. There were no signs, no sound. And just ahead, a single figure walking in the middle of the lane. It was the man from room 11. Head bowed, hands black, dragging something behind him that scraped against the pavement with each step. I hit the brakes. The truck screeched, fishtailing slightly. The figure didn't move, didn't flinch, just kept walking. Get out of the road, I shouted, though the sound of my voice seemed to vanish before reaching him. He stopped, slowly turned, and smiled. Not at me, at something behind me. Before I could react, the sleeper door slammed open, a sound like thunder in the confined space. The woman's voice filled the cab, screaming words I couldn't understand. Her tone wasn't human anymore. It had layers, echoes, like multiple versions of her speaking at once. The windshield cracked from the inside. Every light in the dashboard went red. The CB, still unplugged, lit up on its own, the display flashing in rhythm with her screams. Then, through the noise, through the chaos, another voice joined. Deep, male, choked with static. Exit 9, now! The truck lurched. I didn't touch the pedal, but it accelerated. Hard. The headlights pierced the fog again, and there it was. The same white sign as before. Exit 9, 1 mile. Only now the letters were bleeding. I couldn't stop it. The steering wheel pulled on its own. The road bent sharply right, and I was back on that same narrow ramp. The trees closing in, the darkness alive. The woman was laughing now, softly, almost kindly. You came back. The ramp spilled out into the same valley, the gas station, the liquor store, the motel, all exactly as before. Except this time, the motel lights were all on. Every window glowed yellow. Room 11's door was wide open. Inside, I could see the edge of a bed, and someone sitting on it, waiting. I rolled to a stop in front of room 11. The truck idled like a tired animal that didn't want to be there. Every window of the motel blazed with that jaundiced glow, as if the building had sucked the daylight out of somewhere else and was hoarding it. No cars in the lot, no movement behind the curtains. The office door hung open the same exact 3 inches as before, but there was no smell of cigarettes now. No TV murmuring, just the layered hum of electricity, like a hive inside the walls. The door to room 11 yawned wide. It didn't feel like an invitation. It felt like a mouth. I cut the engine. The sudden silence made my ears ring. For a second, I thought I heard rain, but the air was dry. Then I realized the sound was my blood, moving too fast. I told myself I wouldn't go in, that I'd call someone, anyone. Highway patrol, a friend, a tow, a priest. I didn't care. I just needed another human voice to catch on to. I reached for my phone and it lit my face with a hard blue. 0 bars, no Wi-Fi, battery at 11%. The clock read 2:47. I looked up at the window of room 11. The curtain shifted as if someone inside had exhaled. Get back in the truck, I told myself. Drive, don't stop again. But my hand was already on the door handle. The cab light came on, too bright, too honest. Outside, the motel light wasn't steady anymore. It pulsed, slow and arrhythmic, like something learning how to beat. I climbed down. The air was colder here than it had been at the rest area. A sting in the nose, a taste of coin on the tongue. Frost skinned the asphalt in iridescent swirls that moved when I didn't. My breath fogged and held. It didn't drift. It hung in a thick line between me and the room, like a filament. There was something lying on the walkway near the threshold. I crouched. A strip of motel stationery, yellowed and curled, the edges dark, as if someone had held it to a flame but couldn't commit to letting it burn. 3 words were written in cramped block letters. Don't look back. I stood. The vacancy sign rumbled faintly. Vacancy. ANSI. Vacancy. ANSI. Then it stammered, and for a breath it said AC, and the sound it made felt like something slipping on a wet floor. I stepped into the room. It wasn't the same room. It had the same shape, 12 by 12, single bed, dresser, mirror, but the air inside was colder than it should have been, colder than outside. The thermometer needle next to the door shook in its little glass, trapped it just below freezing. The curtains were open this time, and in the window glass, I could see the parking lot and the angled slice of my truck like a cut of night. On the bed sat the man from before, but he didn't look like a man anymore. He looked like a photograph of a man left in the sun, brittle at the edges, the midtones bled out, head down, hands on his knees, black stains to the wrist. Nothing moved except his breath, a slow raise and fall that didn't fog the air at all. The woman stood to his left. She wasn't shivering now. She wasn't anything now. She was a line drawn between 2 points, connecting the man on the bed to the door I had come through. She turned her head when I entered, and in that moment, I understood the thing I had been refusing to know since the ditch. Her eyes weren't empty. They were full of a road that didn't end, a mile of asphalt repeating, a sign with no words. I was just seeing the reflection of that road pinned in her pupils, the way you can see a highway in a chrome bumper if you catch it just right. She hadn't been lost. She had been stuck. "You came back," she said, not in the tender way from the ramp, not in the practiced smile way from the lot, just flat, like a toll booth voice. "I didn't have a choice," I said, though part of me knew I had once. "You did," she said. "It's easier not to, the second time." The man lifted his head. It took a long time. The muscles in his neck seemed to misremember the order. When his face finally reached mine, I stopped breathing. I knew him, not his name. His shape, jawline, the star-shaped scar by the left eyebrow, the remnant of a sunburn that never fully faded on the nose. It was like looking at a relative you'd met only in baby pictures and still somehow recognizing the face. He was me, with just enough taken away that I could deny it if I wanted. His lips parted. Darkness stuck to his teeth in threads. "You were late," he said. I didn't answer. "Sit," the woman said. "I won't," I said. "You already did," the man said, and patted the bed. I stayed by the door. I could feel the threshold against my heel like a live wire. Behind me, somewhere down the walkway, a soda machine swallowed coins that didn't exist. In the bathroom, a faucet turned without water. Every object in the room strained to begin a task it no longer remembered how to finish. The mirror above the dresser rippled like something alive had brushed its back. I made the mistake of looking into it. The angle caught the bed, the door, the window. It caught the man, hunched, his hands black. It caught the woman, thin and bright as a cut. It caught the room looking back at itself. It did not catch me. The place where I stood was brightness and wallpaper and the faint ghost of a shape where a person should have been. Like someone had stood there once and grown tired of it and moved on, leaving a lighter patch on the wall. "I don't understand," I said. It came out small. "You didn't stop when it was day," the woman said. "You stopped when the light was wrong. You came to the wrong side." "What is exit 9?" I asked. My voice had its old anger again, a tool pulled off a shelf with a familiar weight. "A ramp," the man said, "not to a place." "To what?" I said. "To after," the woman whispered. My head ached. The smell pressed in. The sweet, metallic odor thickening until it was taste, until it was memory. A flash. Cables in the trailer. Coils heavy as sleeping animals. Black sleeves jacketed in rubber. The smear of grease on my wrists from a ratchet strap. Black hands. Not blood. Not then. "You can still go," the woman said, and for the first time her voice softened. "It keeps the shape of a door for a while after you come through. If you don't look back." I thought of the paper on the walkway. Don't look back. A childish instruction, an impossible one. Every instinct in a person is built to betray it. "What about him?" I asked, nodding at the man. I didn't want to say me. "He looked," she said. "How many times?" the man asked, almost playfully. He was smiling again, but it was human now, small and ugly. Something I recognized from a windshield reflection at 3 a.m. after a fight with a dispatcher. How many times would you have to be told before you believed the person telling you? I didn't answer. My phone trembled in my pocket like it had a heartbeat of its own. I pulled it out. No signal. Battery at 10%. The lock screen was lit with a notification I didn't remember receiving. Voicemail. Unknown. One new. I put the phone to my ear. There was no message menu, no prompt, just a click and a line opening like a throat. Static. Then a voice. Male. Older. Me again. Or my father. Or someone who had used my voice long enough to own it. Don't bring her inside the cab, it said. Don't let the light change while you're on the ramp. Don't look. The message cut off. The phone screen flickered, jittered, and showed me something I couldn't shake later. A tiny map with a pin dropped not in a town, not on a road, but in a gray field the app didn't have a name for. The caption under it said recently viewed. The timestamp said 2:47 a.m. The woman stepped close. The cold came with her. I don't know why I expected her hand to pass through me. It didn't. She put her palm on my chest, light as a moth. It felt like a question. You can leave, she said. But if you do, you're the one that waits. Waits for what? For the next driver to stop. The world tilted like a plate. For a second, I didn't know which way the floor was going to choose. The mirror rippled again. The vacancy sign rattled itself into a single word and held it, no. Behind me, the threshold hummed. The doorframe was warmer than the air, that close, animal heat of a machine. If I stepped backward, if I did not turn my head, if I counted the steps and kept my eyes on the truck, on the shape of the truck instead of the window, where I could see its shape, I could leave. I felt the knowledge like a hand on my back. Don't look back, the man said. His tone was bored now, like he was reciting something he'd already said 1,000 times into 1,000 different rooms. And if I do? I asked. The woman smiled. It wasn't wrong this time. It was tired. Then you'll help him, she said, as if that were a comfort. You'll hold the door until the lights come on. In the window, beyond the curtain, movement. My truck, still and obedient. Then, for the barest fraction of a second, another truck slid into the place where mine was. Same make, same color, same dent in the bumper, but with a different rig number stamped on the door. It flickered there like a blink, and then it was mine again. Two shapes crossing in the same spot in different hours. The threshold hummed louder. The door wanted me to decide. I stepped backward. The woman watched me. The man tilted his head back to its starting angle, like a marionette allowed to relax. I kept my eyes on the woman's forehead, on the place a person looks when they're trying not to let their eyes fall to the mouth, to the chest, to the hand that might be reaching. One step, she said softly, like a coach counting, breathe in, breathe out. 2. My heel hit the walkway. Cold bled through the sole of my boot. 3. The air shifted. The pressure eased. The humming dulled to a memory. I could smell diesel again, clean and honest under the sweet metallic rot. The vacancy sign failed between letters and froze on vac. I took the last step backward, and the phone in my hand lit with another notification that wasn't a notification at all. Just a line of text that overlaid the lock screen like a denial of service. Look. It wasn't the phone telling me. It wasn't a voice. It was the muscle memory built into the hinge of the neck. It was the trick children play on themselves. Don't think of a red door. I thought I could beat it by closing my eyes. I could not. My eyes opened, the way a mouth opens when the doctor says, say ah. I looked into the room. The mirror had stopped rippling. It showed 3 people. The woman, the man, and the empty space, where someone should have been. Then, it caught up. The empty space filled with a figure whose face I knew well enough to shave. He lifted a hand, slow and dark to the wrist. He was smiling in that human, ugly way. He spoke. I read the words in the glass because the sound took too long to cross the room. "You were late," he said. "You always were." The door closed without touching. The lock turned from the inside with the dull, domestic sound of metal finding home. I stood there a long time because I didn't know how to measure anything anymore. When I finally moved, it was because my truck had coughed like it was clearing its throat. I walked to it. I opened the door. The cab light came on late, as if it had been asleep. The passenger seat was wet, like someone had sat in it with the rain still on them. My jacket lay there, folded. Inside the pocket, a key with a cracked plastic tag. Room 11? I left it where it was. I started the engine. The clock on the dash was blank for a long moment. Then it found numbers and a colon and confessed to 247 again. I did not look at the motel. I focused on the ramp, on the tunnel of trees, on the slice of not quite night, and drove. The truck moved like something pushed it from behind. The ramp bent up. The highway accepted me. The white lines began their flashes, and for a time that could have been 10 minutes or a month, nothing changed. Then I glanced in the mirror. I told myself I was checking the lane. I told myself I wasn't looking back. I told myself a million little things I could stack like sandbags against the door. The mirror showed the lot. The office door opened 3 inches. The soda machine patient and blue. Room 11 with its curtained eyes. And in the space where my truck had been, another truck slid into place and froze there, as if it had always been the only shape that fit. A person climbed down from it. He was tired, and his hands were clean, and he had no idea how few choices there really are between dusk and dawn. I looked away. I kept looking away. I am still looking away, even now. I write this without turning my head. My neck burns with the not turning. My eyes ache with the not seeing. If you're reading this, it means I got far enough to send it. Or it means the message didn't need me at all, and the road knows how to use a wire. There is a white sign ahead. It's blank until it isn't. It will choose a number when I pass. It will choose whether there's a ramp behind the trees, and whether the lights are on, and whether there is a version of me inside a room I should not enter, waiting to be helped or replaced. The CB is dead. The sky is stuck. The clock refuses to move. The highway doesn't end. That's where his email ended. No signature, no goodbye, no timestamp, just those last 3 words. The highway doesn't end. When I first read his story, I thought it had to be a creative writing piece, some kind of elaborate horror submission. But the deeper I looked, the stranger it got. The email wasn't sent from a normal account. The address was nothing but numbers, no name, no domain I recognized. I tried replying, but it bounced back immediately. Recipient not found. So I searched. Every trucker forum, every missing persons database, every local paper near that stretch of interstate. And I found something. 2 years ago, there was an accident on an old route near the Illinois-Nebraska line. A semi-carrying industrial cable went off the road around 3 a.m. The driver's name was never released. No skid marks, no sign of another vehicle. The trailer was upright, engines still running, but the cab was empty. Inside, the state police report mentioned one strange detail. A motel key found on the passenger seat. Tag reads room 11. Motel not identified. I tried to find a motel off exit 9 on Route 70. There isn't one. Not anymore. The last building in that area was condemned in 1983. Marge's Diner closed the same year. And yet, one of my subscribers, after I teased this story on stream last week, sent me a photo. They said they were driving through Illinois at night when they saw an old sign on the side of the road, half hidden by weeds. It said, Exit 9, 1 mile. When they went back the next morning, the sign was gone. I don't know what to believe anymore. But here's what I keep coming back to. The timestamp in his story. The one that never changed. 2:47. I went back through the email metadata, the file date, the moment it hit my inbox. 2:47 a.m. Exactly. Was it a coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe that's just the moment when that road opens, when the light changes, when someone stops, when the ramp appears. You know, I've gotten hundreds of stories like this, true stories from the dark corners of the web. But this one feels different, because a week after I received that message, I started getting others. Blank emails, no text, no subject, just a single attachment, a GPS screenshot, same coordinates every time, a blank field, somewhere between Ridgefield and the state line, and each one was titled the same way, "Don't look back." At first, I ignored them. Then I noticed something else. Every time I opened my laptop between 2:40 and 2:50 a.m., my Wi-Fi cut out for exactly 3 minutes. Every time, the clock froze. 2:47. So maybe it's just a glitch. Maybe it's an elaborate hoax. Or maybe, just maybe, that driver found a way to send his story from wherever that highway really leads. If you ever find yourself driving through the Midwest late at night and the fog starts to roll in thick and your GPS cuts out, remember this story. If you see a sign for exit 9 that doesn't show up on your map, keep driving. If you see a diner called Marge's, don't stop for coffee. And if you ever hear a voice on the CB whispering in static, asking if you've seen her, don't answer. Don't look back, because maybe the road doesn't end. Maybe it just loops, waiting for the next driver, the next voice, the next listener. And if you ever get an email like the one I did, don't open it at 2:47 a.m. You've been listening to Dark Web Tales. If you made it this far, you already know. Some roads don't lead out, they lead in. Sleep well tonight, if you can. Until next time, keep your lights on, your doors locked, and whatever you do, stay off exit 9.